So when we're stuck in our same thinking patterns, it pays to engage diverse perspectives. But here's a question. How do we calculate when a different perspective is useful? Because not all perspectives are always useful. Well, this brings me to one of my favorite stories in my book Dream Teams, the story of the worst painting in the world. The painting is called The Black Square, and I'm going to show you this painting right now. Are you ready for it? Here it is. It's a black square. Actually, I confess I lied to you. This is my PowerPoint recreation of the black square. Here is a real photo of the black square. As you can see, it is just a black square. Now, I used to think this is the worst painting in the world. I used to think it was so dumb when I learned about it in art class. Art historians love this painting. It's priceless. But there's a story behind this painting that will change the way you think about bad ideas. The story starts with the painter, Kazimir Malevich. Around the turn of the century in Russia, he was an art teacher. He was painting weird stuff, and he was trying to start a cult. He was trying to use art to find what he called the 0 point. He's trying to find where reality ended and nothingness began. And he was using art like the white circle and the red triangle and his magnum opus, the black square, to show people this represents nothing. And when we get to nothing, that opens our minds. And this, spoiler alert, did not work. This cult did not begin. People did not follow him. They thought he was crazy. But he taught his art class, and the other artists, they made fun of him. This was a time when art was good if it portrayed beauty, if it showed you something you couldn't see yourself. So like a beautiful landscape or sculptures of people who were long dead or frescoes of your heroes, where the black square was literally about nothing. So the art world didn't buy this. They said he was crazy. And Malevich went on saying things like, reality can be neither perceived nor destroyed. So when I say this is the worst painting in the world, at the time, it was not priceless. People did think it was the worst. But then what happened is a student of Malevich named L. Lisitsky paid attention in art class, and years later, when the communists took over the government, he was given a job by Lenin to be the head of propaganda. Now, the Bolsheviks were a minority in the country. They needed to convince the masses that this government they just overthrew and turned into communism was better than the old system. So Lisitsky was hired to make propaganda to convince these masses to stick with communism. And he started thinking about this art class he had from Malevich, where while the rest of the art world was saying art is about portraying beauty, showing people things they haven't seen, he remembered, well, Malevich was trying to say that art could convince you of something. So what if I used art to convince people about communism? He started exploring this bad idea. And instead of making the black square, he started making these propaganda posters that used symbolism and art to convince people to join the communist movement. He even used things from Malevich's work, like the red triangle, which represented communism, beating the big white circle, which was the old guard that everyone hated. The black square actually made an appearance in some of this symbolism, but this became the birth of the classic propaganda art you're probably familiar with. And then what happened is not only did it work, did people realize, hey, art can be used to communicate, to persuade people. But after Lenin died and Stalin took over, Stalin realized how powerful this art was. He tried to get rid of the artists. He bulldozed their art. He tried to kill them. He killed many of them. And then many of them, the students of L. Lisitsky, fled to Germany, where they went to the Bauhaus School, where they created graphic design. Now, graphic design was the idea that you could use art to communicate rather than just portray beauty. And this idea came from the propaganda art from L. Lisitsky, which came from Kazimir Malevich's bad painting. So the lesson here is not hooray for communism. It's not whether or not it should have succeeded. It's about how it pays to explore bad ideas, even if you don't believe in the bad idea. Because it wasn't the bad idea that worked. It was the journey on the way to the bad idea that created something new. Now, when you're trying to decide whether a different perspective is worth utilizing or not, there are 3 magic words. Let's explore that. You hear a bad idea, say, let's explore that. You hear a perspective that you don't understand, say, let's explore that. Instead of shutting it down and saying that's crazy or that won't work, say, let's explore that. Because it doesn't matter if the idea works. What matters is the journey on the way to that idea that may unlock lateral thinking. So the The question was, how do we decide when a different perspective is going to be useful? Well, the answer is you don't actually know until after you explore it. So it's always worth exploring if you can invest the time. Now, the Black Square and Malevich, they never got their due. Centuries later, his paintings are worth millions, but he never saw that. But it doesn't matter because his bad idea literally changed the world.